Okay, and welcome back to the YouTube. Today really fucking sucked. I'm gonna be honest. Let's just go through the games. Maryland, they were winning by some points upwards of 11, I believe, and then they just completely collapsed in the final minutes of the game. I think they gave up a 12-2 run to end up down one with like a minute left, and then are down two with a minute left, and they hit a three to go within one with like 30 seconds left, and then nothing ends up happening after that, and they only win the game by one. Usually when you're only up by one with like a decent amount of time left, usually you see some miss and then foul, but nothing like that. Unfortunately, Indiana shoots a buzzer beater. The game ends. Yeah, that game sucked. I really liked that spot for Maryland. I think they should have won that game. Wisconsin, at least this one was pretty much a no sweat. UAB first half, I really like this spot for UAB still. When you look at the game, like Memphis scored a season high first half points at 51. They haven't done that. They barely did it last year. They haven't done it yet this year. They had a record steals in the first half. UAB naturally had a record turnovers and a record of fewest steals in the first half of any game. You could say this is largely due to the competition strength between the two teams, but I don't know, man. I've never seen Memphis play that well. They just seemed really motivated for some reason in this game, and UAB looked, really sloppy. So, yeah, they ended up losing the first half by like 10 or 12. So they didn't cover the full game anyway, so just a bad side. And the absolute shit show of a game, St. Francis. I'm going to paint a picture here for you. You're up by 17. You're at home. You're playing against the team that just beat you, just a few days ago, 6 days ago. They're in your court. You're just shitting on them. You're on top of the world. They are the 362nd worst offense in college basketball. You're up by 17 with a little over 6 minutes left in the game. In that period, St. Francis gives up essentially a 19-point net swing, and ends up losing the game outright. And they end up losing the game by 3. So 20-point swing. Just absolutely fucking disgusting. Like, this is why I hate betting on these bottom 300 teams, and you can never know what to expect, but there's no world where one of the worst offenses in college basketball should be able to score that many points on you, and you can't do anything back to them. Just really frustrating game. Anyway, it is what it is. Illinois, no sweat for about 37% of the game, or 37 of the 40 minutes, rather. And somehow, Northwestern, they go on some insane 19-4 run in the final 5 minutes, bring the game to a 9-point difference, and they have possession. And thank fucking God they had a turnover, bad pass, and then Illinois walks out the clock. But, we both know if Northwestern makes a shot there, Illinois just walks off the clock and we get hooked. So, holy shit, that game was way too sweaty for how much of a non-sweat it was for the rest of the game. Jesus. Anyway, ends up being a losing day, 2-3. It is what it is. Hopefully today is a bit better. Alright, game number 1. We have Nicholls heading on the road to play UTRGV. Now, this is a weird game between two pretty mid schools. But I do really like the spot for Nicholls. So Nicholls they've been playing really well on the road this year. UTRGV has not been playing well at home. So you kind of can take out the home advantage aspect of this game in the Southland. UTRGV does have a slightly better record, one more win and one fewer loss, but they have had a decently easier schedule than Nicholls has. So on paper, they're relatively even teams. I think Nicholls has been playing significantly better as of late than they did to begin the season. But if you look at the matchup, this Nicholls team, they have a arguably unfavorable matchup near basket against the one thing that UTRGV does defend decently well, and that's where Nicholls shoots most of their shots. But still, UTRGV is still the 160th best at defending the near basket. They hold opponents to 56%, and Nicholls shoots 51%. So it's not a big enough gap where I'm assuming that it's going to be a big struggle. And on the other side, this UTRGV team, they like to shoot threes, and Nicholls is a top 100 three-point defense. And in the same regard, UTRGV isn't a good three-point shooting team at all in the first place. They're 334th. They shoot at a 30% 3-point percentage, and now they're playing against a decent 3-point defense. I think that's going to drop significantly. So I don't think they're going to have any way to score this game. I think both teams are going to get stumped a bit on offense. But the big advantage here is that both these teams get points off steals. Nicholls is 46th in the nation, and UTRGV is 86th. But if you look at their matchups, you have Nicholls, who's the 46th best team at converting points off steals, and UTRGV is 86th, not far behind. But the defense, Nicholls gives up much fewer turnovers than UTRGV does. They're 72nd in giving up points off steals. UTRGV is 185th. So I think in this case, if both of these offenses are struggling when they have the ball, I think a lot of points are going to come from points off steals. And I just think Nicholls is going to have more free throws this game, and they're going to have more shot attempts, and they're going to have more free points off of steals. And I think that's going to be the difference. So give me Nicholls as a short underdog on the road, where they have been playing significantly better as of late anyway. If you look in depth on this matchup, in terms of how they've been playing on the road versus at home, Nicholls is one of the best road teams in college basketball. They are 8-1-2 against the spread on the road, and this UTRG team at home is kind of on the opposite. They're 2-4 at home, and they're 0-1 as home underdogs. So Nicholls 1-0 as a home away favorite, 7-1-2 as away underdogs. I just think this is a phenomenal spot for this Nicholls team, who, they're arguably coming off only 1 day's rest. Same with this UTRGV team, but they have been playing decently. So I just think this is going to become a game of steals, and I think Nicholls are better at it. So give me Nicholls by a +2. All right, game number 2. We have South Alabama heading on the road to play UL Monroe. Now, I really like to back the South Alabama team. I think they're really good, especially, their offensive defense has been really powerful this year. I just think they have a really good matchup here against one of the worst teams in the Sun Belt. They kind of do like to blow out teams, the South Alabama team, especially when they're significantly worse than them. Offensively, South Alabama probably won't have any problems. They're not like the best shooting team in the nation. They shoot a lot of threes in their basket shots, where they're from 3-point percentage they're 200th, and your basket they're top 100, which is pretty good. But they get a lot of their points off steals, and this ULM team does give up a fair amount of turnovers. Also, you look at the schedule strength. ULM has not played many, like 322nd in schedule strength. They haven't really played any good teams this year, and when they do, they turn the ball over at a significantly higher rate. So I do believe the South Alabama team is going to absolutely make their life miserable. The South Alabama team is one of the best defensive teams in the Sun Belt, maybe even the best. They're 80th in the nation. And if you look at this ULM team, they pretty much only like to shoot mid-range shots, and they shoot it terribly. They're 360th in the nation. So it's not something that South Alabama defends well, mostly because they know it's not an efficient shot. So really the only place I see ULM getting any points is maybe on the offensive boards. But even then, like, South Alabama is decent at defending their own boards, top 70 in the nation. ULM might get some points off steals, but again, they haven't really played competition like South Alabama. I think it's going to be much harder for them to get steals off of players that are significantly more athletic. If you look a little bit deeper into the power ratings, at home, this ULM team is not great. They're still 332nd in the nation in projected rating. But the big difference is South Alabama loves to play on the road. They're top 70 in away rating. They seem to play better in other teams' barns. And they're just likely going to come in here and just absolutely crush them. They're not necessarily the most consistent team in college basketball, mostly because they rely heavily on getting points off of steals. But I think they're going to find a lot of success in this game. I think the spread is relatively short. This is probably the only spot that I like today that's like a significant skill mismatch. So give me South Alabama to go into UL Monroe and absolutely crush them. Alright, game number 3. We have Incarnate World heading on the road to play New Orleans. Now, this New Orleans team is a tricky one to cap against because in terms of teams that have played in the Southland, this New Orleans team has played a hard schedule. They played the 111th hardest schedule in college basketball, while Incarnate Word has played the 319th easiest schedule. But there are a few reasons why I still like Incarnate Word here as the road favorite. I was hoping to get this line around -3, but I'm going to take a shot at it on -3.5. Now, if you look at their individual matchups, Incarnate Word shoots really well. They like to shoot the mid-range shot well, and they get tons of points off steals and second point opportunities. And they're going to have a lot of success here. New Orleans is the 315th defense against the mid-range shot. Incarnate Word is the 17th best in the mid-range shot, and it's the shot that they take the most, 9th most in the nation. And 77th best at converting second chance opportunities. New Orleans is 360th in defending their own boards. They're a pretty small team. And points off steals, 80th to 211th. So obviously Incarnate Word has played a lot of bums, and so a lot of the numbers are very much inflated. But if you look at their actual record quality, it's sort of somewhat even, 303rd to 304th. So I just do think the individual matchups of how they kind of play is going to come into play here. If you look on the other side, this New Orleans team, they basically only take near basket shots, and they like to get points off steals. They may find some success in getting points off steals, but Incarnate Word is a pretty solid paint team. They're pretty big, and I think they're going to severely limit this New Orleans potential offense. So another big reason why I like Incarnate Word here is, despite the fact that the schedule strength is significantly different, Incarnate Word is one of the teams that are due for the most regression. They are ranked 15th in my model's luck factor, and I do think against really bad competition is typically where they're going to find some level of a positive regression. Again, this New Orleans team, despite the fact that they have played some tough matchups, if you look at their 2 games, they've had to play LSU, they played Texas, they played Iowa, they played Baylor, they played McNeese, they played Vanderbilt. You look at all those teams and you're like, okay, they played a really hard schedule. Cut them some slack. They played Baylor, but like their last few games, especially now that they're hit conference play, they've been playing against questionable teams. They lost to Houston Christian by 10 at home. They lost to Northwestern State by 12 on the road. They beat Texas A&M Commerce, one of the worst teams in college basketball. They surprisingly beat Lamar on the road, but Lamar's been regressing a lot this year. They lost to Southeast Louisiana by 20. They lost to Texas A&M Corpus by 20. They lost to they're still losing to really bad teams. Now, obviously, Incarnate Word is not a phenomenal team. They're like borderline top 300. But New Orleans has not been playing well at home. They're one of the worst teams in the nation at home. And again, the only thing they have going for them is this strength of schedule. I think Incarnate Word just has the tools here to beat them. Again, strength of schedule does mean a lot. I have Incarnate Word only winning this game by 4, and the spread is basically 4. But I do think matchup-wise, they have been the better team. And just because New Orleans has played a hard schedule does not mean that they're due for a lot of regression. I also just think they're really bad. So yeah, give me Incarnate Word on the road here as short favorites. All right, game number 4. We have UCLA heading into USC as short favorites. Now, this is a weird game because on paper UCLA is the better team. They're a borderline top 25 team. USC is a borderline top 50 team. But I do think in this situation, USC is the right side. So USC, if you go back into their most previous matchups, for whatever reason, maybe it's a coaching thing, maybe it's a culture thing, but this USC team has owned UCLA. And I assume because of this rivalry in LA, I think they're going to have a pretty packed barn. If you look at their head-to-head, where USC is playing at home, they have won every single matchup other than in March of 2020. So the last 5 years, USC has completely owned this matchup. They've been underdogs in almost every single one of them, but they win the games outright when they're at home. So I do think this USC team, maybe isn't as good of a, organization or school, but they seem to match up well against this UCLA team. Now, if you look specifically at the matchups, USC has actually played a harder schedule, 40th to UCLA's 56th. And this UCLA team has not played nearly as good basketball when they're not playing in front of their home crowd. If you look directly at, where they like to score points, UCLA is, they like to shoot mid-range shots, and then they like to try to get points off of steals. Those are the two things they do really well. Now, I think they will find some success in getting points off steals. They're 21st in the nation to USC's 126th. But they're not going to get a lot of points on second chance opportunities. And they probably will find some success from mid-range, but again, they're not even a good mid-range team. They're 157th. So I always say this, I prefer elite teams to take mid-range shots because they are not necessarily efficient, and UCLA is not that good on boards. So if they're missing those easy shots, I still think it's a good matchup. On the other side, USC, obviously UCLA is one of the best defensive teams in the league, but I do think USC is a slightly bigger team, and I think they're going to adjust their game plan here. They're not really going to shoot much outside of the arc, and they're going to just dominate the paint. This is the one place that UCLA has struggled to defend. They're 234th in near basket defense efficiency. USC is top 50 in near basket percent. And when it comes to these kind of matchup, they're always extremely close games, and because of that, free throws are important. And I think USC is going to get a lot more free throws than UCLA. UCLA is 45th in free throw attempts per 100 possessions. USC is 110th in giving up free throws. But UCLA is one of the worst free throw percentage teams. They are 70% from the line, just inside the top 250. On the other side, this USC team is 36th in free throw attempts per 100 possessions, and UCLA is 165th in giving up and fouling opponents. And USC is almost a top 100 free throw percentage team, a solid 4 or 5% better than UCLA. So they're going to get more chances, and they shoot it better. I just think this UCLA team has not been playing as well defensively. They've been giving up a lot of points, and they've been fouling us a lot more than they usually do. And because of that, they're going to be in foul trouble. They're dealing with some depth issues, so there might be some stars that are going to be sitting a lot of this game. I know if you look strictly on paper, UCLA is the more efficient offensive and defensive team than USC, but for whatever reason, they've also had the same facts the last 5-10 years over USC, but they've still struggled to play in this stadium. So give me USC. You could take them on the money line, but it's going to be a really close game. I can see it coming down to a buzzer beater 3 on either side. So I'm going to take the plus 1.5 at minus 120 on FanDuel. All right, game number 5, we have Iowa State heading on the road to play Arizona. Now, I can fully understand why people would pick Iowa State because they are on paper the better team. I have them as the 5th best team in the nation. I have Arizona as the 10th best team in the nation. But if you look at it individually, these teams aren't really that different. Arizona is the 11th best offense in the league. Iowa State is 15th. And on the other side, Arizona is 25th best defense to Iowa State's 6th. So Iowa State is a slightly better defensive team, but Arizona is a slightly better offensive team. And I do think they just play such better ball at home, and Iowa State does not. They have played pretty well on the road, but not nearly as much as Arizona's plays improve. If you look directly at the matchup, Iowa State, they are an offense that relies, in my opinion, way too much on points off steals. They shoot most of their shots in the paint and mid-range. They don't shoot a lot of threes. But this Arizona team defends the paint, 11th best in the nation. I think it's going to be a bit harder for them than normal to get points in the paint. And on the other side, sure, they're ranked 2nd in points off steals, but Arizona is 43rd in giving up points off steals. So I don't think Iowa State, especially when they're not at home, are not going to be able to get nearly as many points off steals as they typically like to. This is a pretty solid Arizona team that takes care of the ball. And if you look at the other side, it's an Arizona team, very similar. They shoot near basket mid-range shots. And they have, honestly, a significantly better advantage here in the paint. They're only 5 ratings behind this Iowa State team in terms of near basket offense, but this Iowa State has a significantly worse near basket defense. They're 103rd in the nation. They defend the mid-range better, but I always I think Arizona can literally just live in the paint if they want to. And I think that will be the difference this game. I think free throws are relatively more matched up. Iowa State shoots them slightly better, or slightly worse, but Iowa State will probably get a few more chances. If you look at the direct head-to-head in their power ratings, this Arizona team is number 7th in the nation when they're playing at home. They have been a much better team at home. And this Iowa State team drops to 13th in predictive rating when they're on the road. So I do think this home advantage Arizona will make a significant difference, especially because Arizona has played a tougher schedule than this Iowa State team, even though Iowa State's been playing some of their best basketball over the last 10 years. They're playing really well. But again, I think this will be a solid opportunity for the Arizona team to beat arguably, this is probably the hardest game they're gonna have all year. They're gonna show up for this in front of their home crowd. And again, I think if you look at the trends, Arizona is one of the better home teams. They're 6-4 as home favorites. And yes, Iowa State is 4-0 or 4-1 as the away team, and 4-0 against ranked opponents. Arizona is 3-1 against ranked opponents. I don't know, man. This is gonna be a really fun game to watch. I really do think that, but I think Arizona is going to take care of the ball here, and if they do lose, I think they're gonna lose by 1 point if they don't win outright. So, give me Arizona plus 1.5 on FanDuel as well. All right, and those are the 5 games that I do like for tomorrow. I wouldn't say I love any of these games. If you look on the spreadsheet, none of these are 3-star. They're all half-unit bets. But if I had to pick 5, these would be the 5 games that I am going to bet. I have 2.5 units put out there. I got Nicholls as road dogs, South Alabama as road favorites, Incarnate as road favorites, USC as a home dog, and Arizona as a home dog. I do think in these Big Ten, massive matchups, particularly when it comes to Big 12, Big 10 games, home advantage means everything, and I feel like we've seen that in every single game this season. The home teams always significantly outperform their rating, and the road teams typically don't play that well, except for teams like Duke or Auburn that historically have played well, just as good at home as they have on the road. So I do like the spot for Arizona. I like the spot for USC. Both teams on paper are worse, but I do think home crowd in these stadiums are going to be significant advantages. So that's it. I will see you guys tomorrow.